He responds, but got to actually do the prayer. Let's do that first. I'm sorry. All right, Brother Terry, start us off in prayer.
God, we pray that you bless us, Lord, that you help us, Lord, as we try to lead our country. God, we pray that you give guidance, give wisdom today. Lord, we thank you, Lord, for America, our freedoms that we have. God, we want to keep you at the forefront. We pray that you help us today. Bless the food here today in Jesus' name.
All right, if y'all stand for the pledge, we'll do that one too. We'll all say it together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So like I said, appreciate Randy Stubblefield making time for us. And we're going to start off here. And I don't know, I like to start off kind of just getting to know the person a little bit, you know, and asking them kind of about their family and kind of history. So we'll start out with that. So, you know, tell us about yourself and family. You know, where were you raised at? You know, kind of your upbringing.
Well, my name's Randy Stubblefield. I was born and raised in Gypsy, Oklahoma. And I've got 3 daughters and a son. My wife's Alicia Stubblefield. And just proud to be here.
Yeah. Sounds good. What did you do prior to becoming a county commissioner?
Well, we've got a family business, Stubblefield Meat Processing. I grew up working there. And I left there for about 7, 8 years and worked for the railroad. That's kind of where I learned how to work on roads and run equipment and stuff like that. And then I went back to the family business, and now I'm here.
Yeah, I've taken some deer there the past before, but as probably some here, but Sam probably has too. So, what made you want to become a county commissioner?
I just wanted to see if I could do anything to help. I mean, my granny was my role model, and she always said, if you can do anything to help, do it. So that's the reason.
Yeah. So how stressful would you say your job is? What's the worst part of it?
Very stressful.
Right.
Very stressful. Disasters is the worst part of it. You know, 30 inches of rain in 7 weeks. Big snowstorms. Freeze and thaw. I mean, just tear the roads to pieces. That's the worst part of this job.
Yeah.
You know, trying to maintain good roads and disasters. That is the worst part of this job.
And everybody always comes in to your office happy and cheery about everything.
Sure.
Right. No, in fact, I was there the other day and just bragging on Randy here. A man came in and had an issue with his road, you know, and he was just coming back in just to thank him for how quick, you know, he addressed it. You know, the short time, you know, we met with Randy there, you know, just talking with him about this, you know, you can definitely see his heart in it, you know, and you know, like he was mentioning, talking earlier about, you know, what you said you hadn't had a day off in 2 weeks.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah. And sometimes you're out there yourself, you know, people think, you know, kind of with the sheriff, you know, just because you don't see what they're doing, they think they're doing nothing, you know. It's kind of people's mindset sometimes, you know. And but you know, he was talking. He was referring to how you know, you was out there till what did you say, 9 o'clock one night, running a track hoe yourself, you know.
Well, no, we wasn't running a track. It was Saturday. Saturday night we were out till 9:30. Me and all my guys, they all come in.
Yeah.
And just trying to fix spots where people could get down the road.
Yeah.
You know, we had that major washout underneath the blacktop just north of the Mission Church there. That was a process to get that fixed. I mean, that could have been a disaster. I mean, that could have been really bad.
Right.
You know.
So, roughly, you know, people I don't think really understand the borders of District 1. So, you know, Fusky County, we have 3 districts, and how big that area is. If you want to kind of give some explanation behind that, kind of roughly the borders and how many square miles. I don't know if you know that figure exactly, but
No, I don't know how many square miles it is, but it goes down to the river. You know, back
North
over.
Canadian, right?
Yeah, I mean, back over to the west, goes a couple miles west of Payton, all the way back up to Deep Fork,
Mm-hmm.
over to Wealthy to Highway 48, and it goes down a mile south of Mason School. Then it crosses Highway 48, goes in there about 3 miles, and jogs all the way down to Castle, then goes about 4 or 5 miles back all the way to 14th Street here in O'King.
A lot of people don't realize how big of an area
It's a big area
that you take care of.
It's a big area.
Everybody just, you know, they see their little area that they, you know, spend most of their time in. I believe you told me the figure of how many miles of road it was.
We have around 300 miles.
Yeah,
right at 300 miles,
300
of
miles
road maintained in District 1.
Yeah, in District 1 alone, you know. Yeah, I believe you talked about how long it takes to for FEMA assistance, you know, and evaluating the roads.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take? Because I believe you talked about you did that a couple times driving the roads.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, how long did that take?
I've done it 3 times since I've been in there, a little over a year. It takes 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, if you go out and assess your roads properly,
Just driving
take
roads.
your pictures, take all your measurements, in order to try to get some reimbursement from FEMA, it's a 3 to 4 week process. Now, if we just had a bad storm, we break up into groups and we cover all of our roads half a day. You know, just looking for limbs across the road or maybe a washout somewhere. But during a disaster like this, where it's just repetitive, you know, you have to go out and you have to do your assessments on your roads, and it's time consuming.
So after becoming commissioner, how did you learn your job? You know, here you are, you know, you get elected in there, you're brand new. You go in the office the first day, you know, I work for the US government, you know, they send you to schools for everything, you know, they train you on this, you know. Did they send you to a commissioner school?
There is a class you go to.
Okay.
It's a few days, but you learn by experience.
That's it, yeah.
You learn by experience, and I'm still learning. You learn something. You're constantly learning. If you're not, there's something wrong.
Right.
You need to be always learning, and that's no matter what you're doing. You know, you need to be learning all the time,
right,
to try to make things better.
Going to kind of throw your secretary here a bone a little bit, but how important is her to your job?
She's very important.
Yeah.
I mean, she has to keep up with
Janet.
She's very important. She does a bang up job.
Right.
She has to keep up with the fuel we use. She has to keep up with every load of rock. She has to keep up with all the hours. There's so much that lady has to keep up with. She has a job on her hands.
Yeah.
And take all the calls.
And a couple of times I've been in there, just always a smile on her face. I don't know. Maybe you've met her on a bad day. I don't know, but I haven't seen it yet. But
she's generally in a pretty good mood.
Right. We all have our bad days, though, right?
Oh, well, that's everybody. Yeah.
So, how is District 1, or I guess you might say any district in our county, how are they funded?
Well, they're funded by fuel tax.
That's it. It's a big answer here.
Fuel tax. That's what they're funded by.
And every gallon of gas you use, right?
Well, and it's not. If you come down here to Okemah, and it's statewide.
Yeah.
You know, if you fill up in Oklahoma City, it all goes to a pool, and that pool is broke out by road miles and population. That's why it's so important for people to do their census, because that's how we get funded for these roads. We get funded through population.
People think
From fuel tax.
intervening in there.
We don't get money from your land taxes, and we don't get money if you come down here and buy something from the store. That's not where the M&O for our maintenance operation money does not come from that. It comes from fuel tax.
Roughly how much would you say that is a month?
Well, I showed you the other day.
Right.
It's I mean it varies. After you pay your guys and everything, you've got $8,000 to $10,000 roughly on average to work on your roads, which is nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing. Not when it costs $35,000 to $45,000 to rock a mile.
Right.
You know.
So, like I said, it's important for people to do their census.
It is very important.
You know, and show a population. You know, the accurate population of your county.
Yes.
You know, so you can get, like you was talking about, it all goes into one fund, and then by your population, that's how that's distributed. I know you kind of touched on the FEMA money that how important is that FEMA money?
Well, it's pretty important.
As you see how little that you get from the fuel tax,
now we haven't, since I've been in there, I mean, we haven't received any money from the declaration that we got in last June, which wasn't real big for District 1. It was a lot bigger for District 3. They really got hit hard back in June of last year. We've got a little bit coming from that. We haven't received it yet. November, we got hit hard. It's last November, and we've got a pretty large sum of money coming from that, but we haven't received it.
Right.
And I'm ready to get it.
Right. Oh yeah. And I think there's been a lot of talk, especially at the federal level, about doing away with FEMA. And we kind of discussed this a little bit. Kind of the Trump administration's wanting to put the control more so back in the hands of the state, to work the disasters and that kind of stuff. And there's an unknown there. I
mean, that could be a double-edged sword right there.
And that's yet to be seen how that's going to all play out, if it even happens.
If it happens,
yes. And hopefully, I don't know. We talked about this a little bit, but putting more control back to the local level, that will speed things up. Hopefully. I mean, but we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
The Creek Nation. Yeah, I know there people don't realize this, and I didn't either. How important are they to Ofuskie County, your district? I mean, the whole eastern part of the state altogether, I guess you might say.
They're a godsend.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, they help us out tremendously. People don't realize how much they help us out. I actually had a meeting with them yesterday over that Blacktop Road, just north of the Mission, Went down there and asked them, can you help me out when I have to cut this road and put this 100-foot horn in? Can you? Yeah. As long as you do your part, they're willing to do theirs.
Show them where the money's going.
Yeah, I mean, they want to know where it's going, and they want you to do your part.
Right.
Any
kind of dollar figures on what they've contributed to our district, roughly?
Wow. Last year alone, I mean, all three districts ended up getting a little over 2 miles worth of rock, and then they turned loose the end of the year last year and just told us all you can haul for a week. District 1 got 6,000 ton of rock.
That's a lot.
I mean, that's a lot of rock. Yeah, I mean that's like.
Yeah, well, I don't know the math on that, but what that would come out to on dollars, but
we're talking lots of dollars.
Yeah.
I'd have to sit down and figure it, but they contribute a lot. And they didn't just contribute that to District 1. They contributed to Ofuskie County. They contributed to several counties.
Yeah.
Creek County,
whole eastern part of the state, practically.
Yes, sir. I mean, they help out a lot with a lot of things. My hat's off to them.
Yeah, and so I believe they're establishing the communications as far as the emergency. we talked about that a little bit. That was one of the first. If you want to talk on that a little bit about when you first came in and what you asked them, and
when I first came in, I got to talking with our emergency management director, and we went to a conference together, and I heard the radios that these guys are trying to, our first responders are trying to work with, and they're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. Creek Nation, they're going to put all the towers in, and Jim Bill and I, we went on a quest, man. We're trying to get radios for all these first responders, and we're halfway there. We went and found some grants, and the county kicked in.
A little bit of everybody pitching in on that.
Everybody pitching in on that, because somebody has a heart attack or a car wreck or something, they need to be able to get an ambulance to them.
So before, the fire department couldn't hardly talk to anybody. The ambulance couldn't talk to anybody in this county.
Their communication's terrible.
People don't realize this. Like, people couldn't talk to one another.
It's static.
Yeah. And those radios aren't cheap, I believe you.
No, they're around $7,800 a piece.
Yeah.
But
what's the value of a life?
That's exactly what I say. What's the value of a life?
Right.
If you want to get out there and hustle and look for grants and stuff, you can find them.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been doing. And like I said, I'd say we're halfway there for sure.
Yeah. Co-ed. That's another one you talked to me about, the co-ed grants. And
yeah, that's a good organization right there. They do a lot of good, for your schools, your rural fire departments, a lot of different things. Co-ed, they do a lot of good with their grants.
That's a federal funded grant program, if I understand that correct.
Yeah. And
you're actually on the board there, I believe.
Yes,
right?
Sir.
Yeah. And
yes,
and Shawnee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's a resource people can look to there. Did you? If I wrote this down, I couldn't. USDA, is there some?
I got a grant through USDA here a while back. It was a $75,000 match grant, and the way that works is you go in kind. You're in kind. You do $75,000 worth of in kind. You go ahead and pay for the material and things, and they help you pick a site. I give them 3 sites to look at, and they determined them, which one was the worst. And that's the one they wanted me to work on. And we've just about got that one finished. If we could get a little dry weather, we'd have it done pretty quick. And in return, when we finish that, they come out and inspect it. They write us a $75,000 check.
Gotcha.
Goes back into our M&O.
So, we talked about, the rock and how much that, the Creek Indians was given and all that. And so, how many tons of rock does it take to do a mile of road, and the cost of that approximately, would you say?
It depends on the road. On average, I'd say 1,000 ton.
Yeah.
Average cost of a mile of road is, to do it the way that it needs to be done, $35,000 to $45,000.
Yeah.
People per mile.
Don't and you get, just that, like we were talking about the fuel tax, you get that, around $10,000. That, yeah.
Yeah.
Do the math there. That doesn't go nowhere.
And we've rocked a lot of miles here in the last year or so. I'd say around 20.
Yeah.
But which a lot of that was Creek Nation.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you talked about how much of a godsend they are in helping you. Roughly the cost of asphalting 1 mile of road. Everybody on a dirt road wants their road asphalted, right?
Well, I wanted to be correct on this, so I made a phone call before I came up here.
Yeah.
To an engineer, and it's from start to finish. He told me forever it was $1 million a mile, forever. Well, in the last 5 years, it's went from $1 million to $1.5 million to $1.75 million per mile.
And every situation's different. What you got to do.
But it's going to be in that range from $1.5 million to $1.75 million per mile.
Yeah. And you got that laying around, right?
Oh. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so we talked so about bridges, just rough cost of a bridge.
800 to $1 million.
Yeah. Yeah. And this money don't just fall out of the sky, does it? You know.
Well, our bridge program we do through CED, and there's money allocated to that. And you get on the list, and it may be 7, 8 years now. Like the bridge, one bridge that we've got, we had a pillar fall in, and it's right over by the gas plant, south of the mission there. And now they put a hurry on it since they're gonna. It was due to come up in the next few years, but they're going to go ahead. They put a hurry on it. They're going to go ahead and get it replaced, and then we've got 2 more that's going to be replaced in the next couple of years. One south of Hayden and one just to the east of Bowley. So you're looking at 800,000 to $1 million on each one of those bridges.
Well, no pocket change there, right?
No.
So most people, and that's been talked about before, just they see the roads, the bridges, the asphalt. What are your other responsibilities? What and this might be a long answer here too, but
Well, you have, well, like you said, your roads and your bridges, and you have the courthouse, and you have the sheriff's department, 911.
you handle their funding, correct? You kind of oversee part of
Well, yeah, on some of it. You oversee their funding on some of it, but yeah, the board's over it all.
County
The three commissioners are over all of that, overseeing it. If anything goes wrong, it's your fault.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah. Just talking about the fire departments, how anything the county buys for them, you have to inventory that, correct?
yes, you have to go and do an inventory on it, and they get their own sales tax money to do what they need, and they get the co-ed grants and stuff. But yes, you have to go. If it's in your district, you have to go do an inventory. When they get something, you have to put it on the inventory.
Right. And you talked about the senior citizens centers.
Yeah, you're over the senior citizen centers.
Yeah.
Like I'm over Bowley and Payton, and James is over Walika, and Mike's over here over Okema. Yeah, you kind of oversee the senior citizen centers.
Yeah. So the hot topic here of late, and Ed here, he's running the charge on this. The wind turbines. That's a hot point of contention, right? And so you want to kind of give your position on those.
Well, I'll give you my opinion as just a person. I'm totally against it.
Right.
And the reasoning behind that is I try to always look ahead, look into the future. I don't want to leave my kids or my future grandkids with a mess to clean up.
Right.
And I'm afraid that's what will happen. I'm afraid it'll be another turn of the century oil field, and they're going to have to pay for it. My dad, he's in the oil business. He's got wells. He's paying for what happened back then. Every load of oil he sells, he has to turn around and donate to, or they take it and they give it to OERB, and they come in and they're cleaning up this old. I think that's what's going to happen.
Right.
They actually came down and we had a meeting with them, and we asked them a few questions like that. And what they do is they come in and they lease this property up, and they said they're not in the business of selling leases. And they were asked, well, do you sell them? Have you ever sold? Well, yeah, they have.
Right.
So that's what scares me the most right there is, they come in, they buy a lease, they put these wind turbines on them, and then they sell it to another company, and another company sells it to another company, and it ends up getting sold to a company out of the country.
Right.
And our kids get stuck holding the bag. That's my biggest fear on windmills.
Which currently if I'm right on this, every company who is building those windmills, it's foreign owned.
I don't know about every one of them, but I know RWE came and talked to us, and I asked them that question. I said, where are you out of? Where are you based out of? And they said, well, we've been in Texas since 2007. I said, but they've been in business for 125 years. And I said, well, where have you been? Germany.
Yeah.
They've been in business in Germany.
Yeah.
For 125 years. They've been in Texas since 2007.
Yeah. And
so it's a German-based company, which I'm not saying anything bad about Germany. I'm just saying they're not American.
You don't want to cause an
It's
international
not
incident here.
it's not an American-based company.
No.
You know, and
right.
I just
they're not looking for rural Oklahoma, right?
No, and I mean what people need to look at I've been all over this beautiful nation we've got here. I've been to a lot of states. I've not yet been to one as pretty as Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Never.
Well.
I mean, I just love. I think Oklahoma's a beautiful state.
Right.
I don't want to see it.
Right.
I mean,
you don't want to see that wind turbine in your sunset?
No, I don't. I don't.
Yeah, I don't think really anybody does. Yeah, I know there was a lot of bills, and Senator Logan may want to talk on some of these later, but for setbacks, putting them, distances from properties. Unfortunately, none of that was passed, and so that's why you need to get with your senators and your representatives and, let your voices be heard on that.
Well, the battery banks is another thing that I really am leery about. You got lithium battery banks. How do they dispose of them? I mean, I don't know how they dispose of them.
Right.
How do they dispose of them in these cars? They're piling them up.
Yeah.
And
the blades from the wind turbines.
If they catch on fire, there's absolutely no way to put them out.
Yeah.
Water will not touch them. And the toxins that come out of that alone. I mean, who wants to breathe that?
Right. Yeah.
I'm not for them, but I'm not somebody that's going to tell another man what they need to do on their property. That they work for that. That's. Right. I'm just telling you, as a person, I'm not for it.
Yeah. What are your top priorities for our district over the next few years? What's some projects? I mean, you talked about some of the bridges, that need work and stuff like that. But is there any other future projects that you see maybe happening in the future?
Well, the biggest the thing that I want to get accomplished as long as I'm in here, and I'll be in here as long as the Lord wants me to be in here. That's just the way I look at everything. I think He puts you where He wants you when He wants you there, and He may want you there for 3 or 4 years. He may want you there for 20. As long as He wants me there, that's where I'll be. But the biggest issue in our district is drainage. You got to have drainage, and that is it's going to be a long process.
Mm-hmm.
We've put in a lot of horns over the last year, and we've got a lot to go. We haven't scratched the surface. I mean, if you don't have somewhere for the water to go, just like right now during this disaster right here, if you do not have somewhere for the water to go, it's going to eat your roads out. It's devastating, but it's not going to happen in the next 6 months, in the next year, next 2 years. It's going to take a long time to get that drainage problem solved. You got a lot of old horns in there that are just eat up.
Yeah.
They're where they're supposed to be, but they're undercut. They're rotted out, and it's just going to be a long process getting everything changed out, and it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
So how can your constituents stay informed about county decisions that's happening?
Man, really, the only way I know is come to the meetings. They're open.
Yeah.
They're every Monday morning at 9:00.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Talk about everything going on.
We talk about whatever's on the agenda.
Right.
I mean, that's all we can talk about. Right. But we talk about whatever's on the agenda.
Anything else you want to talk about that we didn't cover?
I really want to stress on people doing their census.
Yeah.
I mean, we really need to get that taken care of. So we can, it's not going to be a lot more money, but every little bit helps.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was thinking on that, a lot of people, especially, they're leery of the government, and they don't want to talk to them. They don't want to, they're intruding in our business, but there's an intent and purpose behind this,
Yeah. I mean, that's how they're funding us.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, that's the way we're being funded.
Yeah.
There's
other things that census is used for too, but won't go into all that.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that was a last question there. Appreciate you coming.
Yep.
And
Thank you, sir.
we'll hand it over to Brother Jared. Oh, sorry. Go. You want to go question? Yeah. Go ahead.
So with our current weather situation, and they're talking another 7 inches coming. Not going to start a dry patch, but how is Oklahoma County doing on funds to fix what's washed down in the streets?
Well, we're turning it all into FEMA. I mean, that's our only way, is go out. We have to go out and we have to assess the damage, photograph it, document it, turn it into FEMA, and it's a waiting game. I mean, that's just it.
Yeah.
Well,
I know.
If I had a magic wand, I promise you I'd fix them all.
Yeah.
No, we understand, but we've got 3 miles that we're down to a single lane. If you meet somebody's backing up. My concern is when you run out of money that you have, what's your next option?
Prayer. Yeah.
But,
I mean, I can speak only for myself. I hunt grants.
Yeah.
I do. I hunt them. I try to get everything. Everything is a process, and nothing happens quick. Nothing happens quick.
If we were to have had a tornado or anything like that, the governor would issue a emergency, and funds would be readily available, would they not?
I've never been in that situation.
Wouldn't it? I would think it would apply to what we've had here.
The disaster declaration.
Well, we've been declared on 2 disasters. One in June of last year, and then District 1 got declared on one in November of last year, and they haven't declared this a disaster yet. I'm sure I hope to God they do. I mean, because this is the most rain that I've ever seen. Well, we're looking at almost. I Googled it actually today. How much rain Ofuskee County gets annually, on average? It's 39 inches. We're at 30 now, or a little above. So we've almost got a year's worth of rain in less than 2 months. I mean, that's the most powerful thing on the planet is water. When you get 30 inches of water in 7, 8 weeks, there's not a whole lot you can do about it.
So is there something we can do instead of call you and gripe about the road? That.
I mean,
we don't do that.
I know everybody is doing everything they possibly can. We've worked since me or none of my guys have had a day off in 2 weeks. I mean, we're constantly out there trying to fix it, make it passable. We can't get into our shell pit because it's flooded. That's what I'm afraid of, is running out of material. Your crushers. There's so many trucks from so many counties coming in. It's hard to get anything going with them right now. I mean, we're running and going as hard as we can, but I'm afraid of running out of material. That's my biggest concern today, is running out of material to put back on the roads.
I think some of this has to, talk about the FEMA and taking that from the federal and putting it back on the state level to get things happening quicker. I think it's kind of some of the thinking behind trucks.
That would be great. Yeah. That would be great
if it happens that way.
if it happens that way.
It would do any good if we called the governor and show him what we've got.
I don't see where it could hurt.
Yeah, and even your federal, senators, and that's, I don't know how that plays out as far as getting. You're getting rid of FEMA.
This right. I mean, this circumstance right here is just something that we've never seen before. I mean, we've seen big rains, we've seen a lot of rains, but we broke a record in April. So nobody that's living today has ever seen an April like we just went through, because we broke a state record, and we were the bullseye in that state record. It was
that map.
Yeah, it was from about Prague to Waleka. That was the bullseye in the state for the month of April. I mean, we're talking about something nobody's ever seen before, and in the history of Oklahoma.
Right.
And we've got a ton of rain.
We appreciate what you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We do.
I mean,
Although you get the phone calls.
Yeah. It's obvious that I don't know to me, but hopefully everybody else, your heart in this, and that you want to do a good job.
Yep, I really do. The only reason I ran is to try to help, and I'm going to do everything I can to help as long as you guys want me to stay in here.
Right.
I'm going to just do what I can.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're District 2. So.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else got anything? Any questions? All right. We'll hand it over here to Jared Cooper.
Stand up.
Oh, you can stand up.
Fit the camera.
Right. I'll get you.
I walk around when I talk, so I can't stand still very well. They'll put me at the seat and I won't know what to do. I have to get jittery or something like that. Most of you know me. My name is Jared Cooper. I'm the Director of Rural Services for the Oklahoma Department of Commerce. And I will mention real quickly, Randy did a wonderful job in his presentation about county commissioners, the work that they do, and all the effort that goes in. Give them a hand from that fact. Thank you for being here. We always like to see local advocates advocating for their community, and in reality, being in the line of fire for all the concerns. And I don't meet a lot of people. There are a few, but you don't meet a lot of people that are really malicious. But people are concerned, and they always look for somebody. How do you deal with this? And it's people like Randy that take the brunt of that. So thank you so much for being here and talking about it. I will mention there is a state website through the Oklahoma Emergency Management. You can go to damages.ok.gov, and any citizen in the state can go in there, log in, and say, we've had flooding, we've had damages. That helps these gentlemen to say, here's all the data that we have. We can prove that this many people complain. So you can just go to damages.ok.gov. There's a form you can fill out. You can say, what is it caused by? Was it tornado, straight line winds, hail? And the more there is, the more likely there's going to be some kind of disaster. Now, there are three different kinds of levels, and I won't get into all that, but the three kind of levels. There is governor-declared disasters. There is Small Business Administration, disaster recovery efforts, and then there is a presidential declared where FEMA steps in. And those all kind of take different categories and have different levels of assistance. That's a whole conversation probably for another day, but just be aware that there are different levels to that. And the more data collection that we can put in place and say, here's what's going on in our communities, that's how money is handed out. I mentioned my name is Jared Cooper. I do Director of Rural Services. I picked that title very specifically because I believe in rural Oklahoma. I lead a team of people. As a matter of fact, I'll hand this out right now. You want to look through it. If any of you want to keep some of these, everybody gets a chance to kind of look at them before you keep them. All of this stuff is free and available on our website. They're all separate documents, so look at what you can. And I'll try to talk about some of the things that's in there. The first document that is there is a map, and the reason I brought it is because I lead a team going to be 6 different regional development specialists. So I'm going to have 6 different sectors across the state. Then I cover 5 counties in central Oklahoma because I live in Ofusky County, from Oklahoma City back to here, Creek County, Lincoln County, etc., Potawatomi County, Seminole County. And our job is to be the communication, to be the liaison between a community and what goes on at the state level. When I go out to a community, I'll sit down with a town like Boley or sit down with a town like Wetumpka or Walika and say, tell me what's going on in your community. What's your challenges? What's your problems? What's the issues you have going on? Hopefully, we find out some issue or something that we can connect back to the right person to find the right solution. People like Randy, they have a full-time job. He's out there taking a shovel, filling the hole full of gravel. He doesn't necessarily have all the time in the world to go, how do I get a hold of the guy at DEQ? He won't return my call. That's my job. Randy can call me and say, Jared, I can't get anybody from DEQ to respond. We've got this issue going on where sewer's running down this ditch. How do we deal with this? I've got the guy's cell phone number. I can pick it up and call and say, hey, Owen, who's the right person? Can we deal with this? How do we get this permit accelerated, whatever the case may be? That's our role at the state, is to help solve those. Again, those documents are all across different things. One of the things that's in there, and I'll just go ahead and talk on it while you are looking at those. Uh, One of the things we hear a lot about is how do we get an Olive Garden to Okemah, Oklahoma? How do we get Buc-ee's to land in our community? You hear that a lot because our communities are sales tax driven. And the counties that we were talking about, how counties are funded by the fuel tax, cities are funded by sales tax. And so it's really hard to find funds to build an industrial park or put new roads in or upgrade the roads when your sales tax is going up and down. That's why a Dollar General landing in a small community like Payton makes such an impact or makes such a difference, because now you have additional revenue. You can actually look at some of the reports, and these reports are completely free. You can go to locateok.com. You can put in your city or you can put in your county, and you can pull down retail statistics. You can see where people are typically buying, what kind of foods they buy, what kind of restaurants they go to. 71% of people in Ofuskie County ate at a steakhouse in the last 6 months. 91% of the people in Ofuskie County ate at a fast food restaurant. That makes sense with what we know. These are the exact same data reports that retail businesses look at and go, should I locate in Ofuskie County? So let's talk about the term economic development. There are vast opinions on any side of any topic about what is good for the state of Oklahoma. Whether you're talking about wind turbines, whether you're talking about, I've got notes on the big aluminum plants going on. I can talk about that if people have questions about it. I can talk about any of those different topics, and there's always going to be good and there's always going to be bad that comes along with it. And trying to balance that out is a really difficult challenge, in making sure we have new revenue that's coming in the state, so that as people buy more cars, as more people go up and down the road, as infrastructure gets more and more expensive, that there's a continued uptick in taxes to help pay for those things. Things getting cheaper, Randy?
Yeah.
They're getting much more expensive. You talked about a $1 million mile. Now it's $1.75 million. In 5 years, it'll be $2 million or $2.5 million. So how do we find a way to pay for that without increasing your property taxes? That's the challenge, right? Well, the only way that we have found as a state is to do economic development. Economic development is the recruitment of new investment into your communities. That's new businesses coming in, putting in an investment in your area, so that there's new property taxes, that there's new people moving to your community, that there's new life coming in, new people walking into the store and putting money on the table. Otherwise, the same people will continue to bear a higher and higher cost. Well, how does that affect Ofuskie County? Some of the data sheets that I handed out reflects that Ofuskie County went from about 12,500 people in 2018 to about 11,500 people. If this trend continues, you're talking about a significantly lower population bearing an increasing higher population without us wanting to raise our sales taxes, without us wanting to raise our property taxes. And we wonder why our water lines, our sewer lines, why our roads are aging. It's because we are on a trend like this with new people coming in, and a trend like this with cost. So our goal is to find new people to invest in the community, that people want to come work in the community, live in the community, pay taxes in the community, build a new house in the community, and all those things help pay for new schools, new facilities, new roads, new water treatment plants, new sewer treatment plants. Those things cost a lot of money. City of McAllister right now is in a tremendous state. Their new sewer plant upgrades will cost $33 million. Where do you find $33 million at? That's a big lift for a community to try to figure out. They all look at their senator and go, hey, Senator, find us the money. And that's part of the conversation that's been going on at the Capitol. I think there's a more important topic about economic development as well, though. And I love this topic because there are some young people sitting in this room. When I first got into economic development, the motto you see for the Department of Commerce or any other agency that does economic development, there's state level, there's federal level, there is sometimes county level, a lot of times local community level, or regional, co-ed, the Council of Government. They're a regional economic development organization. There's different layers of economic development organization. When I first got into it, the mottos of all of them say almost the same thing. They say to help increase the wealth of the people of the community. What does that mean? Well, that means you get a better job, so you make more money. You're able to buy a better house. You're able to buy a better car. You're able to go out to eat more often. And that helps the entire economy, especially if that money is coming in from outside the state If the pizza guy is buying from the baker and the baker is buying from the local guy, that's really good, and that's a local economy. But there's only so much, the only amount of money that's going around a circle unless you bring new money in. So we want to bring in new money. Then I heard a conversation that went this way, and it really stuck with me. It's not just about wealth, though. I want to create wealth. I want these young people to graduate high school, graduate college, whatever direction they decide to go, and I want them to make more money than what I made when I graduated high school. I want them to have a better life than what I had. But the reality about economic development is when you have local jobs, when you have local growth and places for people to work in Ofuskie County, then they're less likely to pack their family up and move to Dallas or to move to Denver or move to St. Louis to get the kind of job and the kind of wage that they want to live. And you're less likely to have to go out of state to go see your grandkids. The reality is economic development is about family and keeping families close together. If you think back to your grandparents or your parents, the thing that made Oklahoma unique was the fact that everybody lived within about 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 miles of each other. Well, why has that changed? Well, part of that is because we've moved away from being an agricultural state, but part of it is it's harder to make a living nearby where you live. And so you have to pack your family up and move to Oklahoma City or Tulsa. And this trend is increasing and increasing. It's one of the reasons they talk about census so much. I'll mention this along with the census. I want to double what Randy said about census. Another important part about the census, if people get out and respond to the census, we are very close to the state of Oklahoma getting a 6th congressional district. If we get that, it gives us additional leverage at the federal government to help shape America as the kind of people that Oklahoma is. That's what we want to do. So that's why that census is so important. So economic development is about increasing the wealth of people, making sure that our kids, when they graduate high school, have quality jobs, but also helping make sure our kids stay local. And so how do you do that? For us at the Department of Commerce, we have a variety of different areas that we work in. My area, I mentioned already, my area is specifically going out and helping to move obstacles. If you're driving down the road and you're trying to get from point A to point B, you're most likely to choose the path of least resistance. You're going to go down the road without the trees across the pathway. You're going to go down the road that doesn't have holes in it. You're going to go the way that's the easiest to get there. That's what we do as humans. Businesses are no different. If in one area you have a tremendous amount of permitting or issues or problems or nobody wants you there, you're less likely to go there than you are to go somewhere else. My job is to help communities move those obstacles out of the way so they can help locate new businesses. For example, you see things like industrial parks. Why would a community go invest their so important dollars into an industrial park? It's sitting there empty. Well, because we live in a market now that says, I can get it right now. Even if you go to a store, when you buy a Hot Pocket, you want something you can stick in the microwave and have it right away. We live in a just-in-time society. That's the way humans are. That's the way we now operate. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's the way it is. And because it is that way, businesses will look at a community and they'll go, in this community over here, in community X, Y, and Z, I can have a site that has water, sewer, electric, fiber, gas, all the things that I need to make my business profitable. I can have it up and running. Because you know why a business expands? Because they just got a contract with somebody else for 1 million widgets that they've got to supply by the end of the year. So it's dollars. Quicker they get that building up off the ground, it's dollars. Community XYZ has a piece of property with all those things on it, has a road up to it. Community ABC over here, let's pick Okemah, for example. Okemah, maybe sit over here and they say, yes, we have a piece of land, we have 40 acres, but we don't have water and sewer to it. But we'll promise we'll try to figure it out if you'll come here. Where does the business go? To XYZ. Because they can make a profit much more quickly. So my job is to go in and help those communities find ways and find solutions to get water, sewer, electric, fiber, gas, all the things that a business needs. You wouldn't buy a piece of property to put your house on if you couldn't flush the toilet. Business is not going to buy a piece of land if they can't flush a toilet at their business. They can't get the water to run. They're not going to put a business there. It's really a lot of common sense when you think about it. So communities have to make the hard choices about where do they invest their dollars. And so we want to help find those resources. You've seen a lot of language from the legislators about prep grants, helping find funding. And a lot of times it's like, well, we need that on the roads. Yes, we do. But we also need to develop sites and develop infrastructure so that new businesses come to town, that their taxes for the next 20 years will pay for the roads. So there's a balance. Again, there's a balance, a line you have to walk there. And that's the tough line that our legislators walk on a regular basis. It's how do we both take care of immediate needs, but also plan for the future. That's my role as Department of Commerce. We also have community development inside there. They handle federal funds, community development block grants. You were mentioned senior care centers or senior centers. You also mentioned co-ed. Federal dollars are administered to the state. They are delegated to the Department of Commerce through the Community Development Division, and then community action agencies that do weatherization, our senior centers funding, the REAP grants that does water and sewer line repairs for a lot of our communities, the fire department grants. A lot of times they'll come through the Community Development Division of the Department of Commerce. So there's a significant number of people that work up there administering the federal rules and regulations of those programs to pass those dollars down to happen in local communities. Oklahoma is a large state. It takes a lot of staff to manage those. So community development does that. We have a Main Street program that was funded by the state legislators because we love Oklahoma. We love main streets just like this, that we want them to prosper and to grow and to continue that heritage that we remember as a child, that you can go downtown, you can walk down the street, and you can buy things in your local downtown. We don't want that to all go away. So there is a Main Street program. The Route 66 Centennial, if you don't know, 100 years next year. The state legislators last year gave some grant money to the 66 Centennial Commission that was administered through the Department of Commerce. And you're going to see some, I guess the right word would be marketing. It's more than that. It's investments into local communities. Stroud, for example, got grants, and some people might think it's silly. I think it's kind of cool. Stroud got grants to make it the neon sign capital. So when you go down Main Street, I think there's going to be 136 neon signs. Well, why is that important? It's important because about 400,000 people are going to travel down Route 66 next year, and we want to pull them off of Route 66, stop them in Stroud, and let them take pictures with all the neon signs. So they shop in the stores, they buy gas there, and so therefore we get their taxes from wherever they go. I think that's cool. And you say, oh, Jared, that doesn't happen. Well, let me tell you a story. Sidetrack, because I do that all the time. Lieutenant Governor tells this story, and it's one of my favorite stories. When I was in Bristow several years ago, when they got rid of the bacon strip, what they called up there, the wavy runway they had, and put in the new runway, Senator Jim Inhofe was really instrumental. And he was the first person, Senator Jim Inhofe, come and landed his plane, got out, and they had a little presentation and everything up there in Bristow. And Lieutenant Governor got up and he told this story, and it just stuck with me. He said he was called to a breakfast in Tulsa at a hotel, and there was about 33 people from Yugoslavia, if I remember right, Czechoslovakia or Yugoslavia, one of those two, that had came in, and for 33 years they have shipped their motorcycles over here, and they ride Route 66 for 33 years. They come over from, I think it was Yugoslavia. And so Lieutenant Governor, he went and met the guy that was in charge, and he said, I have to understand, why would you go through the effort of shipping your bike over here and riding Route 66? Why is it important to you? And the gentleman looked at him and he said, sir, you don't understand. He said, I grew up under the Soviet Union. And under the Soviet Union, there was checkpoints at every corner. There was armed guards and barbed wire down every road. And he said, all we saw of America was the movies. And in those movies, people could get on Route 66 on the East Coast and drive all the way through the West Coast. And not a checkpoint, not a guard, not anybody stopping asking what they're doing. He goes, to us, Route 66 means freedom. And that sent cold chills all over me. Because what we have in our own backyard, people from all over the world crave. They crave the freedom that is represented in Route 66. And that's why 400,000 to 2 million people will travel Route 66 next year and stop in places like Stroud. And that's why we're investing money in those things. That's why we have a Main Street program. Again, I sidetracked from that, but that's the purpose of what we do. We also have a world-class research division where a lot of those numbers come from. We have small business entrepreneurship. Somebody wants to start a business, we have a business hub, help them get registered with the Secretary of State, get them connected with the small business development centers, help them get a business plan wrote, help them connect with a bank that does small business loans, get a loan and help start their business. Here's the big topic. Last year in legislative session, Senate Bill 1447, and Matt, if I start running too long, I told you I can talk an hour, 2 hours, just, do the little, cut the signal. I can shut it down at any time. So last year in legislative session, Senate Bill 1447 divided commerce into two distinct divisions. I'm part of what's called CORE, Community Outreach and Revitalization efforts. That's our effort is, how do we help your community succeed? That's our job. Well, there's another part of economic development which is called EDGE, and that's economic development and retention. That's how do we draw new businesses in from outside of Oklahoma. Again, we want fresh money. There's only two kinds of economies. There's economies that send money out of it, and there's economies who bring money in. There's always topics people say, I don't want manufacturing in my backyard. There's a term called NIMBY, not in my backyard. And I fully understand it. There are certain things you don't want in your backyard. I don't want a junkyard in my backyard. My yard might look like that, but that's not what I want in my backyard. You don't want a salvage operation living next to you. I don't want a marijuana farm next to me. Those that live near me know exactly what I'm talking about. You don't want those kind of things. But at the same time, you have to find a place for new business to come in. If you're not, you become a user economy that send all of your money out to somebody else, and the people work there. And this is what's happening at a federal level right now. They're saying, we're tired of sending all of our money to foreign countries. Let them send our money to us, and let's produce here, and let us have the jobs here. So where do those jobs go? Well, they're either going to go to Oklahoma, or they're going to go to California, or they're going to Illinois. And for my money, I would rather that when Dathan graduates from high school and he walks out the door, that he can go into some job and some career here, make $75,000, $80,000, $100,000, $150,000 a year. He would certainly be happy about that. His family would certainly be happy about that. And I'd rather that be here. I'm nothing against California, but I'd rather that be here than California. And so we've got to find a way to attract those businesses here. So we recruit a lot of businesses. Now, there's always going to be arguments about what the right business is. Oil and gas has always been a staple in Oklahoma. It will always be the top priority for the state of Oklahoma. Aerospace is right behind that. If you may not know, if for young men leaving the, I know Matt knows, young men leaving the career tech or leaving college going into aerospace, average wage for those people going in is $77,000 a year here in Oklahoma. The aerospace economy is $1 billion here in Oklahoma. We are the #1 MRO, manufacturing, repair, and overhaul state in the United States. With Tinker Air Force Base, we got some experts in the room, and American Airlines at Tulsa, #1 in the United States for manufacturing, repair, and overhaul, or for maintenance, repair, and overhaul, MRO. So Oklahoma has a leg up over everybody in the state for manufacturing, for aerospace. There's been a lot of topics about data centers, other types of investment. This last month was the largest announcement of job investments in Oklahoma history. Part of that was a retention project. The Dollar General, or the Dollar Tree warehouse down in Marietta that had been hit by the tornado, they were not sure they were going to rebuild that. They are going to rebuild that. It's a 1 million square foot building down there. That's be 400 jobs that were retained in Oklahoma that were going to be lost. Also is the EGA plant that was announced at Enola. And there's a lot of questions about that, about how does it work with the environment, what's going to happen it's no different than the question that came up about lithium batteries or wind turbines or some of those kind of topics. How do you protect the environment? So I will say this, and I've got a series of notes here, but what the announcement was is an intent to build. It is not a circumventing of any permitting or approval processes. They will still have to go through all DEQ and EPA all approval process to make sure it's safe for the people that live around it. This site was actually a site that I believe it was called Black Hawk. I can't remember for sure. It was a former PSO site that they were going to build a nuclear plant on to solve energy powers back in the 1970s. It was 2,000 acres with things, small little thing, might have heard of Chernobyl and some of the things that happened in the 60s and moving on. There was a lot of concern about nuclear. And we're dealing with the same issues on power right now. And if anybody wants to talk about wind turbines or power and other things at the end of the conversation, I'm happy to have a conversation about that. I have my own personal opinions. But this was a nuclear site. And it's just sitting there, 2,000 acres sitting there on the river that was virtually abandoned. It was given by PSO 2 or 3 years ago to Tulsa Ports for an industrial park. So this is a specific site dedicated for industrial uses where Sofadel that creates toilet paper. Toilet paper was very high demand during the pandemic, as many of you know. And so that spur has increased the growth in the state of Oklahoma. You might not know, but we do a lot of paper products in the state of Oklahoma. There's a lot of logging and a lot of paper products that happens in here. Kimberly-Clarkson, Jinx, Oklahoma, a lot of toilet paper comes out there, flushable wipes, things like that. Sofadil creates a lot of paper, a lot of paper towels comes out of there. Some of the biggest gypsum board plants in the United States is down in southwestern Oklahoma. They use a lot of paper, Republic paperboard. It's an untalked about resource in the state of Oklahoma. So that's where that plant will go in the 2,000 acre industrial park. That was a $4 billion, that's with a B, investment into the state. It's going to plan to create 1,000 direct jobs. Now that will not be instantaneous. They're not going to open up day one and have 1,000 employees over there. Well, there's not enough housing. How will that affect the state? Well, that's going to be very interesting. It's going to affect the state in a lot of different ways, provided that it comes true, because a lot of people promise things. We know that from Tesla and Panasonic and some other things. They say they're going to do things and then might not ever pan out. That's the risk. If it does pan out, it will have a trickle-down effect. There will be a series of other smaller businesses that we call tier 2 businesses that will then co-locate or locate in the area. They'll also create high-paying jobs. So we expect this to have a long-term action. So one of the hot topics, and I take things direct head-on. Everybody knows me. I'm a little confrontational. I'll talk things directly. People go, well, why do you incentivize stuff? And this is the last point. I'll talk about this and one other topic, and then I'll be done. I'll take things, why do you incentivize things? Why do you offer a package? Well, I want to say this. There's nothing we do to incentivize any business that is not performance-based. No business, unless the legislators hand them a check or the governor hands them a check that's outside of our control, no business gets any dollars from us that is not a rebate on the work that they already do. So I could make it as a higher dollar amount, but I make it say it's more like you go to the Lowe's and you buy a $3,000 lawnmower and you get a $500 rebate check back. That's how we incentivize businesses. You create X number of jobs, you get this much of your withholding taxes that would have come to the state of Oklahoma back in the first few years. Why is that important? Well, it's important for existing businesses, but it's also important for new businesses. And the reason it's important is when you start going to build a capital stack for a business to go finance a product, the less they have to borrow, the better rates they get, and the more quickly that bottom line turns from red to black. And when they can put those dollars back in the system and say, look, we already have this much money coming back in, if we do what we say, they can get their money to finance the project at a much lower rate. That's the bottom line. And yes, there's also the other thing that other states are going to do it. I hate talking about this part of it because it's not fair to anybody, but there is the side of it that if other states are going to offer an incentive package, you're bound to as well, or else you won't be competitive. But the bottom line is, for most businesses, the incentives are, how do we get that bottom line to black as quickly as possible? How do we get our total cost for the project down so that our bankers, our finance people will invest? And if we can do that and we help incentivize something, we don't just incentivize, EGA coming. There's a lot more. In fact, I have some specific numbers. we do a program called OIEP, Oklahoma Innovation Expansion Program. And this is, and anybody that does business in the state of Oklahoma, remember this. If you talk to anybody that has business in the state of Oklahoma, I don't care if it's Fritz Trailers up here in Okemah, as long as they meet the criteria, I want to help them. So we have a program called OIEP. Now, OIEP, if you have $625,000 payroll and you're doing a project $50,000, where you're putting $50,000 in. So think, Bob's Machine Shop that has 10 employees in there. They've been making a widget or whatever, and he needs a new CNC machine that's going to cost him $500,000. That's a big chunk of money to go out and borrow. What we're able to do is capture their withholding taxes, rebate it for a period of 1 year, give that back to him. Now he can go in the bank and he's got 10% or 20% collateral down. That's his withholding taxes. Then he goes say, look, I'd like to borrow money, but I already have cash that the state's promising me. I can get my interest rate down a lot lower, or he can pay out our revenue funds. We do that the first, second week of every April, every year. And we incentivize this last year. We had 266 applications, 229 awards. There was $130 million. These are existing businesses in the state of Oklahoma. These are small mom and pops. $130 million of new investment promised in the state of Oklahoma. 1,266 new jobs that were going to happen in existing businesses in the state of Oklahoma, and $68 million of new payroll. So yes, you hear that what always takes the headlines is the big, hey, Panasonic's coming or Tesla's coming. This is what we do every year, and this is what I do every year. If I go out and talk to the local people in your local communities, and I want local community leaders to tell their local businesses, because what's the most important to me is that when, I don't know, is there 100, 120, 200 people graduate from Okemah every year? My question always is, when those young people graduate from that high school or they graduate from that career tech, where are they going to work at? And if there's not an Okemah, it may be Oklahoma City. If we're lucky, it's Oklahoma City, and they're going to pack their family up and they're moved to Oklahoma City. Fusky County's population is going to continue to drop, and we're going to lose representation, and we're going to lose our way of life. So I would rather make investments here in our local community where our young people can stay here, work here, live here, and you can drive next door and see your grandkids anytime you want to. That's my goal in economic development. I'm happy to talk about any kind of economic development. You may be tired of listening. If so, I'll sit down and eat my food.
All right. Appreciate Jared there coming and speaking to us. We're kind of running a little long on time here, but so we'll go ahead and have Brother Terry here pray, and we'll call this to a close here. Also glad to have Senator Logan here with us. We kind of ran a little long on time, and go for it.
Could you imagine for 11 years, me and this guy rode in the car together for an hour and a half a day?
Right.
Can you imagine the conversations that we had?
Right. Did you have to take the front seat out so he could sit in the back?
Very, very interesting conversation.
Right. Yeah. So glad to have Senator Logan here with us. I was going to have him give a little legislative update. We've kind of went a little long on time, so hopefully we'll have him back next month. We'll see if we can get that schedule worked out. So go ahead and close us with prayer.
He's also a pastor.
Right. There you go. Senator Logan.
Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you, we praise you, God. We thank you, Lord, for allowing us this time together. God, we ask you, Lord, that you just continue to put your hand on this grace that you love us dearly. God, we ask you to protect this county, our communities, our loved ones, Lord. We give you praise and glory. God, we ask you to be with us, Lord God, through this evening. God, we ask you to help each and every one of us, Lord, to your work, be about your business. Give us grace and mercy. God, we give you the great honor and the praise and the glory in Jesus' name.
Amen.